All glories to Mother Ratasha, all glories to the religion of love, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the Supreme Lord. O Lord God, please help us live out these teachings, be an example of love in the world. Jai. All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties with the laptop. So we're continuing from the Book of Wisdom. And it'll be page 140 in the PDF. And in hearing her, it was as if my own heart spoke to me, for I by these very steps had traveled. First, in the scene of the harsh realities of the life of the world, of birth and death, old age and disease. Then, in the desire for knowledge of the absolute truth. And finally, in the meeting with the spiritual master. Each one leading me on to another, until, in becoming the disciple of the master, all illusion, all that is troublesome to the heart, being burnt away by love, so that I to truth returned. Then did she speak the signs of wisdom, the possessions of the devotee of God, saying, the beginning of wisdom is humility, for in humility are we emptied out, and being empty, open. Or as the heart filled with pride can hold nothing more, the full cannot be filled. Okay, I'm not going to read more of the book because there's honestly so much to discuss in just this little part right here. But first off is a recap of what we had in last class. And first off, it says, in hearing her, it was as if my own heart spoke to me. Yes, it kind of is like that when a realized pure devotee is speaking pure spiritual knowledge, knowledge of God, of the eternal ecstatic spiritual. It resonates with us inside because we are of the same nature. So the heart recognizes it. The head may deny it, but the heart never. He says, and I by these very steps had traveled, first in seeing the harsh realities of life of the world, of birth and death, old age, disease, then the desire for knowledge of the absolute truth, and finally meeting with the spiritual master, or simpler terms, step number 1, to see what isn't true. Step number 2, to find what is true and live it. And 3, meeting the spiritual master. So each one, he says, leading me on to another, until becoming the disciple of the master, all illusion, all that is troublesome to the heart, being burnt away by love, so that I to truth returned. So burnt away by love. And that doesn't mean by hugs and kisses and rainbows and affection. No, burnt away by love, by the eternal ecstatic spiritual, as Mother Ratasha defined, is of God, not of this world. And when we act in devotional service, these spiritual practices, they're on the same platform as the spiritual eternal. So therefore it is of God, it is of love. So by love, by these devotional service, are we to truth returned. Return, meaning we're in truth. We've just been covered over. And we've forgotten it. Truth is still there. We need to just return to it. Uncover all the dirt that keeps us from experiencing it. So, and now we go into the signs of wisdom of the devotee of God. So, it says here, the possessions of the devotee of God. So the devotee, the spiritual practitioner in knowledge knows that we don't own anything. Everything belongs to God. What do we really own in this world? Even this body is made of material elements. All this is God's energy. It's not ours. What we do possess are these qualities and knowledge. These are the actual possessions that we have in this world. And these qualities, these signs of wisdom that we're going to cover over the next few weeks in this Book of Wisdom, are actually the natural qualities of the spirit soul. This is the nature of who we really are. Every single spirit soul has these qualities of wisdom, of humility, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, cleanliness, etc., which we're going to go into. Now, my foot fell asleep. Now, these qualities, you cannot artificially try to manifest them in your life. You can't be like, all right, I want to be more humble. Okay, humble. and try to like force yourself to be, okay, I'm going to be more humble. I'm going to be more humble. And you can try, and it may verily help. But these are natural qualities of the spirit soul that manifest outwardly as we cleanse internally. So really, these signs of wisdom are like a roadmap. They're like road signs that as you're on a great journey, you say, okay, I'm getting closer to the goal. Oh, I'm living more cleanliness. Oh, I'm manifesting more tolerance, etc. And you can see that these are the benchmarks or the signs that you can gauge of yourself that you're making progress on the spiritual path. And the beginning of wisdom, the very first, is humility. That's where it all begins, humility. For in humility are we emptied out and being empty open, whereas the heart filled with pride can hold nothing more, the full cannot be filled. So, humility. So you must be willing to learn. You must be humble. In fact, that is what ultimately makes that meeting with the spiritual master, is we're ready to hear, we're ready to learn, we're ready to submit ourselves unto an authority who can guide us. Humility means you know you don't know everything, and that you are open to more knowledge, open to being more. So if you think that you know everything, then you can't learn more. As they say, the cup is full. If your cup is empty, there's more that can be filled into it. But if your cup is full of pride, full of your ego, full of thinking, you're hot stuff, where is the room for God? Where is the room for receiving this instruction? You have to be in humility. Without humility, you're closed. So being humble is having the ability to get better. In spiritual life, we're always humble because there's always more. It's never finished. There's always more to learn, more to love, more bliss to experience. There's no cap. There's no limit. We're talking about the limitless, eternal, ecstatic, spiritual love of God. There's no cap to that. If someone says, I know it all, I'm already there, I'm already so advanced, I'm so holy, I'm so great, they're very, very, very covered over. And they're nowhere near where they think they are. No. Even very, very advanced devotees of God, great saintly personalities who truly are so exalted, so wise, so pure, so 100% fixed in God's loving service, even they are so meek and gentle and humble and see themselves as nothing but simple servants of the servants of the servants of God. Even they see themselves as still unqualified, impure, contaminated. Even Mother Ratasha, who she truly was a pure devotee of God, truly, and wiser than anyone on this planet, in my humble opinion, when she walked this earth. I never have I met someone so perfectly engaged 100% in the Lord's loving service. Oh, in mind, in words, in actions. Her whole life was an example of love of God. Yet she herself saw herself as very, very low. I called her a pure devotee once, and she just said, "No, no, no. I'm no pure devotee. No, my master was a pure devotee." And this is the mood of a devotee of God. So we really aren't so puffed up. We really aren't what we think we are. We're actually very, very insignificant, honestly. We are called the atomic spirit soul. Atomic. Inside this body resides the spirit soul. And this spirit soul, the dimensions, the size of it, in the Vedic scripture says it's 1/100,000th the tip of a hair. Or maybe 1/10,000, 100,000, some very, very, very small, minuscule amount that cannot be perceived by the eyes or material instruments. Atomic in size. And if you've ever seen those videos, those animations where it shows planet Earth, and then it pans back, and then you see the solar system, and it keeps panning back, you see the galaxy, and it keeps panning back, and there's all these other giant luminaries and celestial bodies in the universe, and you just see just how far the cinema pans back, and you see just how small and insignificant we really are. We're not even ants on an anthill. Insignificant. In fact, the ants who are crawling all around me right now and tickling me right now, the spirit soul inside the ant is of the same dimensions, is of the same size and quality as us. They're non-different. We're not greater than the ants. We're not greater than the amoebas and bacteria and viruses. No. We're on the same level as a virus. We have the same qualities. Spiritually speaking, of course, our material bodies are different, yes. But spiritually, we're all one in quality. Conscious and individual and unique we all are, but one in quality. You hear that, little ants who are all over crawling on my legs and arms? So, we're really, truly, in our natural state of being, in a very low, meek, humble position. And that's the best position to be in, really. That's actually where the greatest joy and bliss is actually experienced, in that humble, serving mood. We're meant to be of service. We're meant to serve the Supreme Lord. That is our natural, constitutional position, eternal servitors of God. So, what's the opposite of humility? Pride. Pridefulness. And pride is a very ugly and dangerous thing. And we all have it to different degrees. We're all prideful when we're in conditioned consciousness. As it says, pride comes before the fall. So, when we're proud, we often cannot admit our own mistakes. And we make a lot of mistakes. Oh, yeah, we do. And really, they're all learning opportunities. But when we're proud, we can't admit them. And since we can't admit our mistakes, we can't adjust. We can't be flexible. We can't try something else and solve or get better. We become stuck. I'm referring to a bunch of notes I have with me right now, because I have a lot of notes from Mother Atasha on the topic of humility, classes we had. And when you're proud, people ain't going to like you. In fact, people will hate you if you're very puffed up and proud. Especially if they feel that you think that you are better than them. That's a very ugly quality. No one likes that in anyone. Someone who thinks they're so much better. I'm so holy. I'm holier than thou. I'm better than thou, etc., etc. We're not better. We may be blessed with knowledge. We may be blessed with opportunities. We may be blessed with an understanding of what this life is really for and what reality actually is more than others, but that doesn't make us better than others. No, it just makes us fortunate and blessed. But we're not better. No, we're just like the little ants. That's our position. We just never forget our position. So Mother Atasha, she taught us disciples, she said, you're getting knowledge, you're learning things, you're having all these experiences, doing all this good work. But never feel that you are superior. That puffed up mentality, never. People will hate you and they won't hear you. And this, you've seen this in religion. People so puffed up, these preachers, they come in all high and mighty, God's gift to the earth. I'm here to save you all. we've seen a lot of them on the Discord server. And if people think that you're so prideful, think you feel better than them, they won't hear you. They're going to hate you. They're going to hate your book, hate your religion, even hate your God. So we're not better. We're blessed and fortunate perhaps, but not better. No. And real humility is being thankful for everything. Just seeing how miraculous that we have this opportunity, that we have all these blessings that we're given. So grateful to God for all that He's given us, that we're aware of, and even all the many things we're not aware of that He's blessed us with. That is humility, that attitude of gratitude, thankful for everything. Not, looking at one little fault and not satisfied, like, oh, this could have been better, and then we just ruin ourselves from our mind. No, humility is being grateful and thankful for everything, seeing everything as a blessing. Even our own suffering, even our mistakes, all is a blessing for us to learn, to purify ourselves, to get better, to come closer to God. Benjamin Franklin, some of you may know or not, was one of the founding fathers of America. He was one of the most intelligent of the Continental Congress. He was an inventor, and he was very, very humble and very, very well liked by everyone. They would be arguing in the Congress, and this idea, no, this side, and this faction, and then, But then when Benjamin Franklin would speak, everyone got quiet. Everyone listened. And he was so humble. He would say, I think this might be the best course of action, but I could be wrong. He had a very humble demeanor about him. And surely he was the most intelligent of all of them there too. But it was his humility that endeared others to him. And he was so well liked. I mean, thanks to his ambassadorship to France, they liked him so much that they, bankrolled the revolution and helped them win the war. Because of his humble demeanor. It's a very endearing quality, humility. I mean, someone who doesn't have a very high estimation of themselves, someone who can take a joke, can laugh at themselves, not take themselves too seriously, not think themselves so high and mighty. It's a very, very likable. Whereas someone, so vain, so proud, so arrogant, like, distasteful. Who wants to hang out with someone like that, right? So, again, also humility is also knowing that all of our abilities are given by God. Our intelligence, our strength, Oh, what's that sound? Hold on a second. Sorry, this laptop's getting a little hot, and the fan was humming into the microphone. Oh, let me just stand this up a little bit. Sorry. Let me take care of this poor laptop, which is burning up. Okay, there we go. So, those hearing the recording, you guys on Discord probably don't hear it, but the fan is going. Anywho, so everything that we have, our strength, our intelligence, our beauty, our skill sets, everything is given to us by God. It's a gift from God. And again, we should be thankful for all these things. Not be puffed up and proud. Oh, I'm so smart. Oh, I'm so strong. Or I'm so beautiful. No, these are gifts from God. And all things in this world, including these gifts, are meant to be used in loving service. They're meant to be returned to the Lord in love. We use everything in God's service. So again, we shouldn't be proud of our material acquisitions, our wealth, or proud of our, bodily stature or status in society, which is related to this temporary body. No, they're not. We shouldn't be proud of these things. And again, just be grateful, be humble, and use them in the loving service of the Lord. Because, the thing about pride is we don't connect it up that it's not our own accomplishments or our own good luck that we achieved these things or acquired these things or got to where we are. It's by God's giving. It's by God's arrangement. And verily, by God's arrangement, all those things can be lost to us in an instant. So, again, nothing to be proud about, but use it in loving service. And another thing about about humility is being more apt to be forgiving and to seek forgiveness. So it's good in a humble state to go to anyone you've offended and ask for forgiveness for your offenses. Humbly and sincerely. Like when you're kids hey, say you're sorry, like, oh, I'm sorry. No, mean it. I'm sorry. You got to mean it. Otherwise, you got to be sincere. But it's good to, beg forgiveness for others for our offenses. And even if you go to someone you may have wronged and they don't forgive you, or maybe they're just toxic and mean and like, rah, rah, they don't care, like, I ain't gonna, doesn't matter. It honestly doesn't matter, because you are in that humble state. You're the one benefiting. Because when you bow down low to another, that's your own dirt that you are dropping off. You're purifying your own self. It's for your own benefit. And likewise, on the other side of that coin, when we forgive others who have wronged us, who have offended us, we are letting go of our own angers, of our own suffering, again, dropping off our own dirt. We're purifying ourselves. We're the ones benefited. Now, if you offend a devotee of God, however, and I mentioned this in past classes, only the devotee of God can forgive you. Not even God. So, and this is very practical. Like, if you bump into somebody, you don't just ignore them and then just say, oh God, I'm sorry. No. You say you're sorry to the person you bumped into. It's practical, right? So same thing. If you offend a devotee of God, you should directly, beg forgiveness from a devotee. It's very dangerous if you offend a devotee. It destroys all your pious merit, really. But usually a devotee is very forgiving, so they'll forgive you. They won't be like that toxic person who's just like, meh. No, a devotee will always be forgiving. If you're sincere. If you mean it, of course. You got to mean it. And again, that humility, that that low, surrendered state, is freeing to us. And Mother Atansha, she gave us more instruction, for going out preaching, for sharing the message. She taught us that, when you're interacting with people, communicating with folks, friends, relatives, people on the streets, sometimes it's not about being right. Because sometimes there's people out there who are just looking to be offended, looking for an argument, looking for a fight. So sometimes it's best to just take a humble position, do our best, and just say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and just be easy with it. Don't try to win an argument. Mother Atansha told us a story. She was having dinner with someone long, long time ago, and they had a somewhat philosophical debate going on, and they were at an impasse. They weren't agreeing with each other, and eventually the other person, they conceded and said, "Okay, you win. It's fine." And she said, "Well, you agree with what I said?" He said, "No, our relationship's more important than winning the argument." And that man took a very humble position. You can't win all your battles. Just stay in a humble position. Because even if you are right, even if you have the right knowledge, the other person's in the wrong, or thinking bogus stuff, they're not going to be able to hear you. If they first don't even like you, if they can't even respect you. So just be a humble, sincere, loving devotee. Be meek and, in all cases, all situations. Because honestly, that's our real position. It truly is. And about the quote, or the knowledge I mentioned about how we're all the same quality, the same tiny atomic spirit soul in all bodies. There's a nice quote from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 18. Vidya vinaya sampane brahman nega vihastini shunni chaiva svapakacha pandita hasama darshinaha. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmin, is a priest, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, or an outcast person. He sees with equal vision all of these, because he sees the spirit soul within every one of them. The same quality. So the humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, offers respectful obeisances and veneration to everyone, even the animals, even the insects. They're all spirit souls of the same quality. We're not better, honestly. And again, the analogy or the imagery of panning out of the universe, seeing how small we are. Well, what also humbles me is knowledge that the fact that we're even here in this material world is because we defied the Lord's instructions, have committed offenses, and ended up here. We're all criminals. Every single one of us is a rascal, is a thief, is a selfish sinner. Every single one of us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Unless, of course, you're these great messengers of God sent here, or spiritual masters choosing to return again and again. That's different. But all of us, we're all criminals. And we've committed so many offenses. We've wronged God and ignored His commandments, since time immemorial. And I know a lot of folks that don't believe in reincarnation, this might not jive with them, but truth is the truth. We've had millions and millions and millions of lifetimes to various species and various planets all over this universe. And the fact that we keep on reincarnating again and again is because we keep on committing offenses and mistakes and wrongdoings. We keep on sinning, in a sense. We keep on trying to serve ourselves selfishly, then serving God in love selflessly. And even in this life, I mean, I know me personally, maybe some of you guys are listening to this and you guys here are really good people, so maybe you don't have these kind of things to think about. But for myself, even in this life, when I look back at my life, oh, how many people I've wronged, how many hurtful things I've said to people, how many pranks or unkind things I did, how many bugs I've killed, intentionally as a kid. Now it's unintentional and I still feel terrible. As we're driving, when I see a bug hit the windshield, it's like, oh my God, and I'm repenting, Oh, that's me. But still, lots of things that I think about. Just keep myself humble. Keep myself in a humble state of being. Because that's a real position. Humility. And without humility, you can't make any progress in life. In spiritual life. No. That's why it's the first sign of wisdom. And that's manifests around the same time pretty much in the meeting of the spiritual master. Again, knowing that you don't know it all, you need help, and submitting yourself, putting your life in the hands of another with full faith and surrender. Because you can't do it on your own. So, anyways, stop there. Open for comments and questions. Since the laptop's not working, I'm not going to pause it and restart it, so we'll roll with it, So anyone have any questions? I know I talked a lot on just a tiny section of the book, but honestly, there's so much more. There's so much more. I got way more notes here. I just, focused on the main little tiny things. You have a question? Comment? Feel free to share. You're marinating. Okay, you're formulating that thought into coherent words. Okay, you don't have to. How about you guys? Anything you'd like to share or comment or ask? And it doesn't have to be on humility or the signs of wisdom leading one to humility in the meeting of the master. It can be anything that's beneficial for your spiritual life. If you want, you can marinate on that, and I can read a few more of these notes that I took. And some of these notes now are not from Mother Atasha, they're from my readings of other great masters. Here's one from A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. He says, humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from a point of view of a man in perfect knowledge, who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. One should not be hankering after this material deception. So he's singing big degrees, big position in society, big titles and honors that people seek. Again, you're seeking veneration and honor from other people, which all is on the material plane, related to your material bodies. And none of that is useful or beneficial for spiritual life. Hey, ant. They always land on their feet. It's okay. Another thing he wrote was, a devotee should not be proud of his acquisitions. The symptoms of a devotee are meekness and humility. Although spiritually very advanced, he will always remain meek and humble. One should not be proud or falsely puffed up. In this way one will surely advance in spiritual life. Marinate something?
So for the degrees, getting degrees,
Uh-huh.
living in a world that we need some financial needs, some material needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here, Bhaktisiddhanta or Bhaktivedanta was saying that. So he's saying that it's wrong to get a degree.
No, he's
Or
saying
what
do
is-
not be he's saying don't be unnecessarily puffed up and proud of your acquisitions.
Oh,
I mean, yeah, okay, you got a degree, you got a career, you're providing for your family, for
even
yourselves.
for others
That
too.
that's fine, but being proud of it, thinking again that I'm smarter than others, I'm better than
Oh,
others,
okay.
I'm more important than others, I am da 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 da, and you're seeking to be honored by others for these material things,
Oh,
seeking
I
honors.
understand.
Yeah, that is pride.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, seeking honors. A devotee of God does not seek honors because all honor is God's. And there's a part of the book in the Religion of Love where people wanted to honor Mother Ratasha and organize a festival in her name, which is common in the East. There'll be a lot of festivals or melas in honor of great saints and spiritual masters. Like in Bangladesh, there's the Lalan Mela. Lalan was a sadhu who was very poetic and loved by both Hindus and Muslims alike. And there's a mela every year, the Lalan Mela, and it's very popular. People go to, and so they wanted to honor Mother Atasha in that way, and she refused the honor. She said, "No, no, no. All honor is God's." And I've told before one time in Texas, there was a program arranged by this Indian community in Dallas, and they prepared a big Vyasasan for her to sit on. So it's like a big chair that the guru usually sits on for her to give her talk. And she saw that she walks out into the crowd and she sees that chair and she just went, "Oh," because she was like, "That's for me? No, no, no." It's like that's a chair for God. No, no, I'm fine right here. And she just stood there and so that everyone could see her and gave the talk and answered questions. And it kind of rubbed some people wrong. It did. But she who was who he was. She wasn't seeking honors, and she wasn't there to please them materially. She was there to serve them spiritually and please God. Yes. She was very, very humble. She avoided all honors. People wanted to write articles about her, make documentaries about her, interview her, this and that. And she turned all that down because she didn't want attention on herself. She didn't want to, be about me, 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 me. But to the individual journalists and folks, she said, if you have questions in spiritual life, if you want to hear the message, I'll give you all time of day. But so I'm not here to talk about myself. I'm here to help you. She's very, very, very prideless. She was wonderful. Oh my gosh. Well, I'll read another thing. See if it sparks an idea. Again, this is from Bhaktivedanta Swami. Unless one is humble and prideless, one cannot be harmless and non-violent. And after being non-violent, one has to learn tolerance and simplicity of living. So basically saying, until you develop humility, you can't develop these other qualities. Like first it starts with humility. So one must offer respects to great religious preachers and spiritual leaders and also train the senses for controlled action, learning to be unattached to family and home and enacting devotional service to the Lord. So, ready to offer respects to, great preachers, religious leaders, spiritual personalities, and receive knowledge and instruction from them. Not the puffed up mentality thinking that, oh, I have something to teach you. Oh, I'm the teacher. Oh, and thinking you're on an equal level of these great saints. No. Very humble, very meek position. And we're talking about the real spiritual personalities, not the phonies. No. We're talking about the real ones.
So,
Yes?
so sign of wisdom
Mm-hmm.
is that they start happening one right after each other. So we have to first 100% have humility, and then go to the next step and next step. We can have a little bit of each,
Well,
right?
it's not like you go to the next one. And it's not that you have to develop humility in full for the other qualities.
happening.
No. In fact, these qualities will gradually manifest in one as they continue on the path made straight, to varying degrees.
Natural.
Yeah, and they start coming more and more. Like, devotee learns tolerance, but you may not be like super tolerant in the beginning, but you're definitely more tolerant than you were before. And as you get older, as you keep practicing, deeper and deeper you start experiencing tolerance to higher degrees than as you did before. But it's saying until you at least have some humility, not full humility. We don't start off immediately like so meek and humble. Like one of my favorite examples of humility are the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. Sri Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, Raghunatha Dasa, Raghunatha Bhatta, Gopala Bhatta, Jiva Goswami. Like these 6, they were such pure souls. And also the most amazing scholars. They were so wise. In their time, there was no one wiser. In their time, there was no one more pure on earth. They were so wonderful. Great surrendered souls unto God. And there's a wonderful story, I think I mentioned it before, where this one puffed up preacher, there was this puffed up Brahmin, very prideful, thought he knew it all. He traveled to Vrindavan to debate Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. And the two of them, they're busily engaged in service and writing books and translating things. And they saw this guy's mentality. And rather than waste time, they wrote on a piece of paper and basically gave him a certificate with their signature that such and such guy has defeated Rupa and Sanatan Goswami in debate. Here you go. And they just gave it to him. They didn't even care. I said, okay, you win. Bye. But then, that same puffed up guy, is like, haha, I defeated them. Wow, look at the paper. He then went to Jiva Goswami, who was younger than the other Goswamis. And he also demanded from him a similar certificate that he defeated him in debate. But Jiva didn't do that. No, Jiva debated him right then and there and just crushed him with the light of knowledge from the scriptures. And just destroyed the guy and, made him look like a fool, which he was. And some critics may say that Jiva Goswami, he did not act in humility, that he was breaking protocol of a devotee. But that's actually not true, because, you see, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami didn't care that he was there to try and dishonor them. They didn't care. They didn't care if he thought that they beated them. Okay, it's fine. But when Jiva Goswami saw this guy falsely claiming that he was wiser and defeated them when he actually didn't, see, Jiva didn't care about offenses to himself either, but he couldn't tolerate this nonsense done unto the other devotees. And that's why he defeated them on the spot, to looking out for the others. So, and that's actually right here. More notes. I'll read this. A devotee is generally very humble and meek, and he is reluctant to pick a quarrel with anyone, nor does he envy anyone. However, a pure devotee immediately becomes fiery with anger when he sees that the Lord or his devotee is insulted. This is the duty of a devotee. Although a devotee maintains an attitude of meekness and gentleness, it is a great fault on his part if he remains silent when the Lord or his devotee is blasphemed. So there's that story in a nutshell of Jiva and the other devotees, other Goswamis. I'll keep reading. When a devotee, in spite of possessing all the qualities of pure realization, is not proud of his position, that is called pridelessness. In the Padma Purana, it is stated that King Bhagirath was the emperor above all other kings. Yet he developed such ecstatic love for God that he became a mendicant and went out begging, even to the homes of his political enemies and untouchables. He was so humble that he respectfully bowed down before them. So prideless, even going to his former political rivals and just bowing down, begging from them. So, oh, well, that is some humility right there. Oof. Any other comments or questions, guys? Nothing? Well, I'll read one more thing. This is from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtaka, number 3. Oh, my feet keep going numb. Ah, yeah, okay. Trinadapi sunichena tarori vasa hishnuna amanina manadana kirtanyaha sadaharihi. One can chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking himself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So, humility. Oh. Yeah. I think an ant crawled all the way to the top of my head and bit it. I don't want to hurt them, but I will shake them off. Might even send a few of them flying. Whee! But they'll be okay. They're lightweight. You guys good? Anything on the topic of humility? I could say, in my sense, my end. Oh, Yeti, you have something to say?
No, just sort of an agreement that, some of these self-righteous people are very annoying and, you try to stay away from them and keep away from them.
That's true. Yeah, they are kind of annoying. No one likes a puffed up person. No one likes someone who thinks, they're better. I mean, we're
in Australia, we say we don't like people, or we don't hang around people who think that their shit don't stink.
Right. We have a similar expression over here. Yes. Yes.
Oh, San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very common. And it's also the saying is very common as well.
It's quite apt. Yes, someone that thinks that they don't make mistakes, they know it all, they're better. We're vegetarian, for example, and we try to not cause unnecessary suffering, but and we would try to encourage folks to maybe be vegetarian just by offering nice vegetarian food. But there are these militant vegans out there, I think you guys know of, who are so anti, and they try to shame people, they try to guilt people, they think they're so much better than other people just because of their diet that makes them so much better. Oh, and it just turns people off. I've seen people, that I think there's got to be a bunch of satires and videos out there where like these militant vegans are trying to shame people not eating meat, and just because they're just so unlikable that the guy just doubles down and eats more meat just to spite him. It backfires. It doesn't it doesn't work. And in religion, that's what's happened. one thing I really like about Native American religion or spirituality, especially the Hopi, is that their house of worship, which is called a kiva, it's a round structure that's half above ground and half below ground. And the part below ground, it's dug into concentric rings that go lower and lower and lower, and the center is the lowest spot. And the elder or the priest or the person most qualified to lead a ceremony sits in the lowest position, in the very bottom, in humility, because he sees himself as servant to everyone. He is their servant. And that's a very, very good way. I really appreciate that. And that's what a real spiritual master is. Spiritual master does not come to be served. Hey, serve me, worship me, honor me. No. The spiritual master comes to serve. In fact, is servant number one to everybody. Which is a stark contrast to a lot of modern religious organizations today, where the one giving lecture, giving the sermon, puts himself on a very high position, very high pedestal. And we've been to old churches in Europe where how they're built. There's this part where the person gives the sermon, and it's in a very, very high position, like this little narrow stairs that go way up to this spot, And I get also it's meant so that everyone can see and hear you. Yes, I get that too, but there's a little more to it than just good audio. Well, this was before microphone days, but yeah. So no one likes someone who's all puffed up and proud. And if someone is very puffed up and proud and they say that they're so spiritually advanced, that's a sure sign they're not. Right off the bat. And there's no need to tell them that, because that's also prideful. For one, thinking yourself better than others, and then another, thinking seeing someone else as wrong or not good, and thinking to tell them they're not good. That is not good. No, devotee doesn't need to go on a fault-finding mission and fault-revealing mission, telling other people their faults. No, it's not unless they ask you, unless they say, "Hey, please tell me what's up. Give me some constructive feedback." That's different. But but people make it their business, unfortunately, in ignorance, to tell people what's what, and because they think they're better. And that's not good. Work on yourself. We have so much to work on ourselves, really. Oh my gosh. And the work never stops. Like I said, it's never finished. There's always more to learn, always more to love. It never stops. But some people think they've already reached it. There's a class of transcendentalists, mostly impersonalists. They think that I've achieved nirvana, or I've achieved the Brahmabhuta platform, or I've achieved moksha, or Brahman realization, right? And then they give up all their practices thinking like, I've already made it, I'm already there, I'm at the top of the mountain. And they don't do their practices anymore, and because they think that they're already there. And they think they're all that in a bag of chips. They think their metaphysical stool doesn't stink either, But they are not where they think they are, and in fact they are got a lot of work to go. In fact, they might be worse off than anyone who doesn't even do spiritual practices, honestly, because their ego's so big, they don't want to serve God, they want to be God. Oof. Yeah. No. We're always purifying. Always. There's always more work to be done on ourselves. Someone who says they've already made it, that's already a clear sign that they're not making any progress. I think I'm already there. No. And we've seen that too on the server. You guys seen it. Someone shows up on the server and they're so puffed up, and they're there to like preaching their own thing, like as if the Religion of Love Online Center is their open mic night, and they're the guest of honor that we've all been waiting for. And they spew a bunch of nonsense thinking that it's absolute truth and that they are so woke. They say, I'm not a seeker. No, I'm done. You guys are seekers. I've found it all already. I've already found it. And they say this nonsense and they're so prideful and they can't hear anything because, remember, when you're filled with pride, you're closed. You're closed off. You can't hear anything. And we've seen that many times, unfortunately. Being open. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be open to what everybody has to say. No, of course, you need to have, some discernment of what are proper sources of knowledge. But, anywho, well, lots of bugs now. Now I got a bunch of little tiny, tiny bugs now. We're going in there. I thought that was ants, but now it's little tiny gnats. Don't want to hurt them, but I will, shoo them away. So, anything anyone else like to add? Comment or question? See if any notes I missed.
Story of the priest and the lady who was in the church and she was laughing at
Oh yeah.
crying. I don't know if it's coming up for the next class. Just remind me.
Yeah.
My mind to it.
My wife's. There's a story about pride, a prideful preacher coming up. But go ahead. I'll end the class by paraphrasing that story. So there was this preacher of some religion. It's very universal. It could be any religion, and he's giving his talk in the house of worship, and he's so proud of his learning, and he's speaking so eloquently, and he sees a woman in the crowd who's crying, and he thinks to himself, "Oh, look at this woman. She's moved to tears by my eloquence. Haha." And he's so puffed up and prideful. He's like, "Haha, look how I moved her. I moved her to tears. Haha." Well, by God's arrangement, the two actually meet in the marketplace, and he finds that woman. He says, "Hey, the other day I saw you were so moved by my speaking. What was it? Was my eloquent speech? Was it my vast scholarship? Was it my piety? What was it that moved you so?" And the woman says, "Actually, to be honest, I had a pet goat who was so dear to me, and he died last week. And when you're talking and your beard goes up and down, it reminds me so much of my goat," I cried. Oh, that'll peg that guy down a notch. Anywho, so humility is a big deal, and in knowledge we can try to be more humble with knowledge of our true position, knowledge that we're all equal spirit souls, knowledge of how we've all ended up here through our many offenses and past and present and whatnot. So in knowledge we can be humbled. We can trying to realize this knowledge. And sometimes, of course, life will just happen, and there will be occurrences where you're going to have big losses or big setbacks or great suffering, and that too will also humble us. So sometimes God will take things away. Sometimes God will put us in a very difficult situation to actually help us if we're too stubborn to make progress and let some attachments go. To push us in the right direction to become more surrendered, more humble. But he won't take away the possessions of a devotee who's been given things because of his devotional service to use in God's service. No. So you don't have to be brought low and become impoverished and sick like the courtesan and the courtesan the monk story. No, you don't have to come to that level. But just keep hearing, chanting, remembering, and naturally all these good qualities will manifest. So okay, I'll stop there. All glories to Mother Ratasha, all glories to Religion of Love, all glories to the assembled devotees. Jai!